Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center. This place is different. Wells Fargo. Berkeley College. Education prepares us to reach our dreams. Be inspired. Delta Dental of New Jersey. Everyone deserves a healthy smile. The Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, founded by the Jewish community. New Jersey Sharing Network. The Russell Berry Foundation, making a difference. NJM Insurance Group, serving New Jersey's drivers, homeowners, and business owners for more than 100 years. And by Fedway Associates. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com, all New Jersey in one place. And by northjersey.com and Local IQ, part of the USA Today network.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. We are at the NJEA Convention. It is the 166th time the NJEA has come down to do this convention. We happen to be in a convention center in Atlantic City. So what's going to happen here? We'll be speaking to educators, officers of the NJEA, a whole range of folks. Like our kids who are in the public schools, they say, oh, it's the teachers' convention. Well, the NJEA Convention is a lot more than that. The theme this year, social justice. They'll be talking about race relations. We'll be talking about technology, a whole range of issues that impact not just those who educate our kids, but those students, our public schools. We'll also be joined by Dr. Cornel West, who is delivering a major address here at the NJEA Convention on race relations in America, on social justice. Everything you ever wanted or needed to know about education, about our educators, but ultimately about the things that affect our students in our public schools. The 2019 NJEA Convention from right here in Atlantic City. Once again, we're joined by Marie Blistan, president of the New Jersey Education Association. Good to see you. By the way, you could tell that we're live here in Atlantic City because you see the activity going on. The convention is just kicking off early in the morning. Marie, first of all, put this in context for folks, because for those of us who have a fourth grader who's like, Dad, I have the 2 days off.
Yeah.
Well, those 2 days off, tell folks what goes on here.
Well, they're not 2 days off for our educators in this state, that's for sure. We have 229 different workshops for our educators. We have 200,000 members, Steve, as you know, in our great public schools, and they have the availability to come here, participate in those workshops in areas of their expertise, to grow their own professional learning, and again, to make content specific and important and relevant for our students in their lives.
Why is social justice a big theme at this convention?
Well, it's a platform that my two colleagues, Sean Spiller and Steve Beatty, and I ran on in this great state.
Your president and your secretary
Vice President
treasurer.
and Secretary Treasurer.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll see that the theme here says that for student success, we need education justice, we need social justice, and we need to do it by standing together. And that is a theme that we've had the past 2 years. We're going to continue it this year and definitely next year and into the future. So to have Dr. Cornel West here.
That's a big deal.
Oh, it's a huge deal.
We go from these big picture issues of social justice,
Yes.
race, its connection to education, to a meat and potatoes issue you and I discussed on the radio recently. I was hosting over at AM 970, and you were good enough to get up real early and join us. And you talked about standardized testing.
Yes.
For folks who care about this thing called the PARCC test.
Yes.
P-A-R-C-C.
Yes.
Is it done? Is it dead?
Well, we're still talking about standardized testing and its proper use with our students in education. And I always start where we should start. What is the role of education? A role of education is to enable our students to become productive citizens in this great country of ours. Let's start from there and let's work backwards on what it is that they need. Testing has its role, just as standards do. And I'm a big supporter of standards in our state and implementing those standards. But when we look at standards, we must look at what the education education is, what the curriculum is. What we know about testing is it has its place. It gives us a snapshot. It helps guide us as we move along, but there are different types of testing. And the most formative, the most important testing for me as a classroom teacher was always
Go back, hold
yeah.
on. Go back and let people know, before you became the president,
yes,
you were in the classroom for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, more than 30 years. I taught kindergarten through 12th grade over those many years, regular education, as well as students who receive special education.
Good, go back to, that's great background,
yes,
context. Go back to this connection to testing.
Well, as a classroom teacher, I was constantly assessing my students' learning while I was teaching a lesson. I'm trained to do that, I'm an expert in that, so that I would know, even as I was delivering a lesson, whether I was meeting their needs, whether I was capturing their attention, connecting with their background knowledge so that they could in fact get the concept, or did I need to readjust constantly? That's assessing. I also used formative assessments, which are the classroom test and the district test that we would use.
But Marie, you're not saying you don't believe in standardized testing
right.
at all.
No, absolutely not.
Because there's going to be something
place.
after Park.
It has its place.
You've been listening to and watching Marie Blistan, who is the president of the NJEA. We're here at the NJEA Convention. I should have said this up front. The New Jersey Education Association is a longtime underwriter. I should disclose that, long-time underwriter of what we do at the Caucus Educational Corporation and of our colleagues and partners at NJTV. I want to thank you, Marie.
No, thank you, Steve. We appreciate it. We love being here. We're excited to be here. And again, our educators, we're #1 in the United States, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Best quality public schools.
Who was it again?
Education Weekly.
I knew you'd know that.
Yeah.
They said #1.
They said #1. We were #2 for a while. We were very proud of it, but we said we were not going to stop until we got to be
Isn't
#1.
it great? New Jersey
and we're going to stay there.
New Jersey's #1 in something other than
yes.
property taxes,
yes.
auto insurance
yes.
rates. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you, Steve.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're talking to two very important educators who are making a difference in the lives of our students every day. First, Jennifer Keeney, who is a 5th grade educator, and Jessica Torcicollo, who is a middle school counselor at what school?
MSC Attales Middle School in
Where?
Absecon.
Where?
Absecon, New Jersey.
That's beautiful. Is that South Jersey?
Yes. It's about 10 minutes away from here.
Okay, from Atlantic City. Well,
yes.
You know, it's interesting. We're interviewing a whole range of people who are the winners of something called the Frederick Hip Foundation Award. What's the award? And then we'll connect it to something called the Reset Room, which both of you are involved in. What's the award?
So the award is open to NJEA members who have innovative ideas, whether they're academic, new programs. Ours is more of a mental health initiative.
The Reset Room.
The Reset Room.
And we should let everyone know that Frederick Hip, a former top leader in the NJEA, right?
Yes.
Now let's set this Reset Room. What is it?
So it's a room where our students can go, whether they're in crisis or just having a really tough time, they can go and de-escalate. It's a place for them to go and just get away from whatever is triggering them or making them upset, and they can go calm down and then get back to class and do what they need to do.
Let's play this out for a second. Our daughter is in the 4th grade, going to the 5th grade next year. And I often wonder, she seems happy and loves her teachers, loves her school. But what are most kids, or many kids, dealing with in terms of, imagine we're talking about kids and mental health, but it's real. What are many of them dealing with?
We don't always know. And when they come to school, the behaviors that we see, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. We don't always know. We have to make those connections. And a lot of them are dealing with traumas, such as anything from parent divorce, separation. There could be substance abuse in the home.
Could there be violence in the home?
There could be violence.
By the way, we've actually done a series of programs on what are called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. Both of you are shaking your head. You know
yes.
exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And they face adverse childhood experiences.
Yes.
But how does a teacher pick that up?
Well, the behaviors are what we see. And a lot of times, kids who are facing trauma, they present themselves in undesirable ways. They may not follow the rules in the classroom. They may not be the most likable kids. But those are the kids who we need to reach the most. We need to work a little harder to figure out what's going on beneath so that they have a chance. And so the Reset Room is the opposite of punitive. It's more of a proactive solution.
So you're not going to be punished for quote unquote acting out We're going to try to understand it. Well, you may be.
There will still be consequences if an act is committed, but the idea behind the reset room is that we catch that student before they commit an act that will get them written up, before they lash out, snap, hit another child, curse out their teacher. We get them in that moment, that pivotal moment. We call the counselor. The counselor is our point person. She brings the child to the reset room, and while they're in the reset room, they can select a variety of strategies. And we have them posted, lots of different things that they can do, from stepping on the tactile, touching the tactile
wall. Why don't you pick it up from there?
Sure.
What goes on? Sorry for interrupting.
It's okay. So it's all up to the kid what they think will best help de-escalate them. So we have a lot of sensory tools, a tactile wall where they can touch things on the wall. We have coloring books, we have a trampoline, we have stepping stones. It's just a lot of physical things to help them de-escalate in that moment. And while they're in there, we talk about coping strategies that they could do in the classroom. We set goals for when they leave the reset room. How are you going to improve on your behavior? How are you going to fix this? So I think we look at it as a restorative process before the negative thing even happens.
But Jessica, I'm curious about this. How do you help teachers? I mean, is there training involved to help teachers to pick up on the things that Jennifer's talking about?
Sure. Well,
or is it just great teachers have those instincts?
Our school district is focused on social emotional learning. So that's one of our district goals. So the teachers are learning how to recognize these behaviors and connect it to issues that are possibly happening in school, outside of school. There's always a root cause for the behavior. A kid's not just bad because they want to be bad. Something is causing that behavior. So as a district, we're working on improving how to recognize those behaviors and connect it.
Could this reset room be a model for other schools across the state and the nation?
100%. So. It's certainly not the only one.
People call it different things, but this is the reset room.
Absolutely. It's in its infancy stages. It can only grow. And without the HIP grant, we wouldn't have been able to purchase the materials to set the room up.
So that HIP grant was huge in that regard.
Absolutely. Without the HIP grant, we wouldn't have been able to start this room.
Last question. You got into teaching because?
I think that children have the most passion, and I would most want to work with children than anyone else. I think they have the most potential. And the thing about children is, no matter what happens, the next day they come in and they're forgiving, and you start every day fresh. And I don't know that adults are always like that.
100%.
Well, Jennifer and Jessica, you're doing important work.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the best, and to your students in the reset room. And hopefully it will continue to grow and be a model for others, not across the state, not just across the state, but across the nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're joined by Steve Beatty, who's Secretary-Treasurer, New Jersey Education Association. Good to see you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Real quick, how'd you get into the NJEA?
Well, I got into the NJEA when I started as a teacher back in the early 90s. It was just a foregone conclusion to me that I would be part of the association. I grew up in a union household, and I know the union is where the strength is, and it protects our association and our profession. So I got in as soon as I was a teacher. I became a member.
You know, we're talking about a whole range of issues that affect not just the teaching profession, but again, the students that they teach, the teaching culture. It's interesting, there's something called Chapter 78. First of all, what is Chapter 78 and why does it even matter to this convention and the people who are here?
Well, Chapter 78 is a law that was passed back in 2011. And what it does is it mandates that all public employees pay a portion of their health care premiums. The problem with the way the law is written is it has educators and public employees pay an increasing share of the premium costs, which escalate many times beyond what teachers and educators are bringing home in their take-home pay. So the bill itself and how it was put in the law.
Hold on, the bill itself. Are you talking about A 5814, a bill that's been introduced by the Speaker of the House?
So jumping ahead on
Craig
that,
Coughlin?
Exactly. So we've been working very hard for well over a year now, really since the original law was passed, but well over a year to get some relief for our 200,000 plus members.
What does relief mean, Steve?
Relief means we have to find a way to change the way that the premium sharing is calculated so that educators, when they actually get a raise in their salary, actually wind up taking home more pay.
And hold on, back up. The impact on taxpayers is?
The taxpayers in this case is great. The way the bill is written, it would change the structure of the three plans that come out of the state plan itself, and in doing so, not only saving money for educators by the premium sharing, but also about $300 would be saved for the state and the local municipalities. So we really call it a win-win-win.
Steve, let's shift gears. ESP, Education Support Professionals.
Yes.
Who are we talking about outside of teachers? Are we talking about custodians?
Yes, we're talking about all the people that, of course, are our partners in education. Our custodians, our bus drivers, our secretaries, our aides in the classroom, cafeteria assistants, all those people that really are the fabric of our schools.
What's the problem?
The problem is, in this case, there's two things that our two bills of the ESPs do. First, would provide job protection. A lot of the things, of course, we look at outsourcing in districts, firing our paraprofessionals. So the first bill would prevent districts from outsourcing the paraprofessionals, the ESPs, during the life of a contract, so it would be subject to collective bargaining to some result.
Right.
And the second bill would also give them the same due process rights that every other certificated staff member has.
I'm curious, what has taken so long? I mean, we're not here to advocate, we're here to understand these issues. Why would it even get to that point that they were so vulnerable? I mean, what is the driving force behind not giving those protections?
The first case, boards of education argue that they have to maintain their rights to manage the district and pay the bills.
But that's fair.
To some degree, but most times when there's any kind of proposal for outsourcing our ESPs, we're able to go in there and show by looking at the board's books and records that they're not going to save money, that there are other ways to save money, be more efficient, and that it's really not only the money part, but these ESPs are, ESP brothers and sisters are a fabric of the school. We don't want strangers in the school either. These are the people that are there every day. They live in the communities most times, and they are part of the children's lives as well.
They're vulnerable right now, Steve?
They are vulnerable.
In a way that you're arguing potentially affects the culture of the school and ultimately our students.
Yes.
That's interesting. So people think the NJEA, New Jersey Education Association, only teachers. Not true.
Not true. I mean, it's always, we hear a little when people talk about the teachers union or the teachers convention, mostly we're quick to correct them that it's not teachers. We're all educators. Every person that works in the public schools, whether the bus driver, the first person that sees the kids in the day with a smile on their face, setting the tone, to the last person that sees them. It could be the custodian, it could be the lunch aide. All those people are part of those children's lives.
Well, Steve, thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
This is,
Steve.
in fact, the 166th time the NJEA has been holding an annual convention for those of us who have kids in the schools. We know it's called the Teachers Convention, but it's much more than that. It's the NJEA Convention here in Atlantic City. Steve, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure.
Be right back after this.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
I'm Steve Adubato. We're here in Atlantic City at the NJEA Convention. 166 years they've been at it. And what's interesting about this convention is that there are educators, educational administrators, others. There are folks who have come here, also from outside of New Jersey, to deliver powerful messages. And the gentleman you're about to see on camera is just such a person. He is Dr. Cornel West. It says here, professor, philosopher, author, activist. He is so much more. 20 books later, nationally, internationally known. You honor us, Dr. West, by joining us.
Brother, I'm the one who's blessed to be here with you, and I want to salute you for being such a force for good.
It's very kind of you.
Put a smile on your father and your mama's face, though, brother.
Thank you.
You're doing wonderful, wonderful work, though, man.
In fact, let me ask you this. Let's get right into this. One of the things that's always struck me about you is the way you talk about race and race relations in this country. A is important, B makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable important sometimes?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, education is all about making sure that we are unsettled and unnerved enough to critically examine ourselves, to scrutinize ourselves, interrogate ourselves. We can't grow without that kind of criticism. And that's a certain kind of learning how to die. When you give up a certain assumption or a prejudice is a form of death, from that comes rebirth, from that comes maturity, from that comes growth. But you don't want to unsettle people in such a way that you shut them down. You're trying to make contact with our common humanity.
Why does a convention like this, focusing, you have educators and others in the education world from all over the state, but focusing on social justice is a big theme here. What in your mind, what does that have to do with education of our children?
Well, it's at the very center of it. You know, the greatest American philosopher was named John Dewey. Wrote a book called Democracy and Education in 1916. He said, you can't have a democracy, you can't sustain a democracy without there being a civic education in which people are Socratic. They're willing to examine themselves. And justice simply is accountability. It's what my dear brother Jeff Stout, just retired from Princeton, calls answerability.
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 Let me operationalize that, if I could ask you.
So that we
Go
have to
ahead.
have dialogue. Dialogue is at the center of democracy. When you and I are having dialogue, you keep me accountable, I try to keep you accountable. We got smiles on our faces. We know we can learn and listen from one another.
We can disagree, but do it.
Absolutely.
Do it how?
Well, one, we ought to disagree because we often disagree with ourselves.
Whoa, wait a minute.
We've got a lot of tensions inside of us. We're struggling all the time with what our views are about
If we're
X.
thinking.
Well, and even when we're honest about it, let me just say when we're honest about it, because most people think.
As opposed to, I'm
most
so
people think.
sure about what I think, and nothing or nobody is going to get me off that.
That's right. There's nobody I know who believes that every exact opinion they have is one of certainty. There's got to be some probability that leaves open uncertainty. And the same is true when it comes to issues of life, of religion, of politics, of sports, of music. All these opinions are opinions that are predicated in part on being accountable to others. Why do you think John Coltrane is better than Sonny Stitt?
Than Bird.
A Bird. And you say, well, they're not. They're too good to compare each other.
Right.
Oh, what's Sarah Vaughan? Let's go New Jersey. Let's go Newark.
Let's go Newark.
Let's
I'll
go
give you
Newark.
another one.
Yes.
Woody Shaw.
Oh.
See, you didn't see that coming.
Oh, I didn't.
Because that's Newark.
Woody.
I was born and raised in Newark.
Woody's a giant.
It was Sarah Vaughan. By the way, NJPAC, Sarah Vaughan Way, if you check it out where it is.
That's
But
right.
Woody Shaw, the great jazz.
Philip Roth, another
the
genius
great.
coming out of Newark.
That's right.
But
That's
all
right.
of these, people debate about these things. It's politics, it can be music. And once you have dialogue, this is why Socrates is so very important, right? Because once you have dialogue, you got to make that human connection. I mean, the difference is that, Socrates never sheds a tear, Jesus weeps. You see,
I hear you.
Isaiah weeps, Muhammad weeps. So that weeping, the tears make a difference.
The
You
emotional
can't just
part of
have
it.
the dialogue. You got to have compassion. You got to have what I call a love. You got to have a certain kind of empathy.
I'm Steve Adubato. That, way more importantly, is Dr. Cornel West, and we thank you for staying with us. We are joined by Ed Richardson. It says here, past executive director of the NJEA. First of all, Ed, it's great to see you.
You too, Steve.
We've had countless conversations over the years. I disclose this every other time.
Always good ones.
But I'll disclose this as well. The NJEA has been a big supporter, a major underwriter of what we do, and a supporter of NJTV News, our colleagues and partners. That being said, what's it like for you to look back on your, how many years?
26.
Oh, boy. You look back, and what sticks in your mind?
Just that the quality of our public schools in the state has been a constant, and the commitment of our members to the children of the state has been a constant. And so whatever issues have come up over the years, whether it's school funding, student assessment, family involvement, it's always within that context. It's always within that framework. And so, it's so gratifying to be able to step away from the organization at a time when New Jersey's been ranked #1 for the quality of our public schools in the country by Education Week. When we have a level of member engagement and member voice and empowerment within our organization that is virtually unprecedented, or at least in modern times. And that we are focusing on the power of the diversity of our students and our membership in the state.
Why does that matter so much, the last part?
New Jersey's public school students are now a majority children of color. And our educators, our education workforce is not nearly close to that. And so we believe that it's important that as we move forward that children of color see themselves more in their role models, but also that children who look like you and I see role models who don't look like them. And we are very focused on that as a mission at NJEA, and I'm very proud that that is a legacy that I know will continue. You look at the logo for our conference, and it talks about student success.
That's right.
Social justice and education justice.
Education justice.
So we have the #1 schools in the state. We can't honestly say that the quality of education is universal across the state of New Jersey. We also have, even though in the aggregate, the most diverse state, perhaps in the nation, very segregated public schools, very segregated communities. And if we're not helping our children to be comfortable working with people from all different backgrounds, that does not bode well for our society, because as adults, we all have to do that. We all should do that.
But is that the role of the NJEA?
It's the role of public education in one sense. And yes, and NJEA is a huge force for public education in New Jersey.
Ed, listen, I know we'll continue to have conversations about education, about teachers, about students who matter most to them, but I've said this to you before, I'll say it again. Thank you to all the public school educators who have taught our children for so many years. They make a difference every day, and we thank you for joining us.
They sure do.
And having us here every year.
It has been my pleasure for 26 years to work for them.
Thank you, Ed. Well done.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Holy Name Medical Center, Wells Fargo, Berkeley College, Delta Dental of New Jersey, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, the Russell Berry Foundation, NJM Insurance Group, and by Fedway Associates. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com and by northjersey.com and Local IQ. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Hi, I'm Elise Glennon. New Jersey Sharing Network is committed to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. We are proud to announce that the Transplant Games of America will come to New Jersey in July of 2020. This 6-day festival will raise awareness about the need for organ, eye, and tissue donation and bring together families and individuals impacted by the gift of life. To find out more about how you can be a competitor, a volunteer, or a corporate partner, visit njsharingnetwork.org. Let the games begin.